Tonight, in our coverage, deadly violence emerges in Syria, killing hundreds of civilians. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Elia Batul. Mark Carney is the new leader of the Liberal Party and Canada's next Prime Minister. The former central bank governor has secured a landslide victory, winning over 85% of the votes. He dominated all 343 ridings, leaving his closest rival, Chrystia Freeland, far behind at just 8%. Karina Gould and Frank Baylis trailed even further. In his victory speech, Carney promised big changes rooted in strong Canadian values. He vows to stand firm against U.S. tariffs and insists Canada won't back down until Washington shows respect. Carney wasted no time taking aim at conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. He accused Poilievre of siding with Donald Trump and ignoring climate change. At 59 years old, Carney has never held elected office, but built his reputation guiding Canada and the United Kingdom through financial crisis. His campaign focused on economic stability, climate action, and restoring liberal momentum. Despite the win, Carney's biggest challenge lies ahead, preparing for a federal election. He must build a cabinet and decide whether to seek a seat in the House of Commons or call an early vote. After more than 2 years of relentless advocacy, the remains of Morgan Harris have been discovered at the Prairie Green Landfill in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Another set of human remains has also been found, though identification is still pending. Harris and Mercedes Myron, both from Long Plain First Nation, were among 4 Indigenous women who were killed by serial killer Jeremy Skibicki in 2022. For over 2 years, their families and rights groups pushed for search at the landfill, despite repeated refusals from authorities. The previous Manitoba government declined to support the effort, citing safety concerns. But after the New Democratic Party's election victory in 2023, Premier Webb Kinnew fulfilled his promise to back the search. On Friday, officials confirmed that remains found last month belonged to Harris. The discovery marks a bittersweet moment for her family, one of heartbreak, but also long-awaited closure. Premier Kinnew has commended the families for their resilience. He calls their fight a powerful call for justice that extends beyond their own loss. For the families, the search continues, along with the hope of bringing all their loved ones home. Mediators from Egypt, Qatar, and the U.S. are working to restart stalled truce negotiations between Israel and Hamas in Doha. Hamas says it has shown flexibility and is waiting for Israel's response to the latest proposals. Meanwhile, tensions are escalating as Israel cuts off electricity to Gaza. Hamas calls the move blackmail and a failed tactic. Local officials are warning of a looming health and environmental disaster. The Gaza Electricity Distribution Company reports that before the war, Israel supplied power through 10 lines. Now 70% of the network is destroyed, and most service infrastructure is in ruins. In the occupied West Bank, armed Israeli settlers stormed a mosque in Khair Batana during Ramadan prayers. Dressed in military uniforms, they reportedly confiscated worshippers' identification cards and phones. They then vandalized the mosque and destroyed its pulpit and electrical appliances. Activists say Israeli forces have demolished 40 homes in the area. A U.S. envoy says direct talks with Hamas on releasing Israeli captives have been very helpful. He says a breakthrough on Gaza could come within weeks. The Palestinian government media office has updated the death toll to 61,709. The latest figure includes thousands still buried under rubble and confirmed dead. More than 111,860 have been injured. The Trump administration's plan to use artificial intelligence to monitor and deport international students suspected of supporting Palestine has ignited controversy. The Catch and Revoke program is being led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It scans student visa holders' social media for signs of Hamas support. It is powered by Palantir, a firm linked to Israeli military operations. The system has already led to at least one visa revocation. Rubio defends the policy, calling it a zero-tolerance approach to foreign visitors who support Hamas. However, critics warn it threatens free speech and could expand into mass surveillance. Amnesty International condemns the move as an attack on human rights. Legal experts argue student protests are protected under the First Amendment. Meanwhile, Trump has cut funding to Columbia University and launched an anti-Semitism probe into the University of California. In related news, U.S. immigration agents have arrested Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian graduate student. Khalil, a permanent U.S. resident, was a prominent organizer of last year's pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. He played a key role in mediating with Columbia officials as activists called for the university to cut ties with Israel. He was taken into custody at his campus residence Saturday. The officials say they are acting on State Department orders to revoke his student visa and later his green card. His wife is also a U.S. citizen and 8 months pregnant. She has not been given details about his arrest. Khalil is now being held in an immigration detention facility in New Jersey. The move follows President Trump's pledge to deport international students involved in pro-Palestinian demonstrations. The officials allege some protesters supported Hamas. The crackdown on student activism has raised concerns over free speech, with rights groups warning of a dangerous precedent. Columbia University has not commented on the arrest. Syria's coastal region is in crisis as clashes between government forces and armed groups loyal to ousted President Bashar al-Assad have left hundreds dead. The victims include members of the Alawite minority and security forces ambushed by pro-Assad fighters. Authorities have imposed strict curfews in Latakia and Tartus, where tensions are highest. Security forces have been accused of launching revenge attacks following the ambushes. This comes as a newly emerged militant faction, the Military Council for the Liberation of Syria, has vowed to overthrow the government. The faction is linked to Assad-era generals. Interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa has vowed to hold all perpetrators accountable. He says he will punish even those closest to him for involvement in the mass killings. The government has also struck a deal with the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces to integrate its institutions, including border crossings and oil fields, into the state administration. The unrest has sparked competing protests across Syria. Key regional powers, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, have condemned attacks on government forces. This past week, the world celebrated International Women's Day. In Toronto, thousands marched with a growing focus on the crisis of violence against Indigenous women and girls. Anishinaabe activist Catherine Brooks highlighted the shift in awareness. She said, "The real history of this country is finally being recognized, and more young people and allies are speaking out." The annual rally, led by community groups, unions, and students, also addressed global issues. They spoke about the femicide in Mexico, where 9 women are killed daily. Activist Karen Castillo urged remembrance for victims. With teachers' jobs actions in the spotlight, retired educator Margaret McPhail stressed the role of education in women's empowerment. Feroze Rajdai of the Young Women's Christian Association of Canada acknowledged the fight for justice is far from over. The march sent a clear message: awareness is growing, but action is needed. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV.